Sawadee Krap and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. As you know, on this podcast, it's always 10-15 minutes each episode, and we're always trying to embark on a hopefully somewhat enlightening journey, if you will, through media and communication. In this episode today, we delve into the, again, once in a while, maybe captivating world of influencer marketing. Because last episode we talked about social media, right, and impact on mental health and so on. So influencer marketing is just the next logical step because, of course, influencers go hand in hand with social media. So join me now as we trace the evolution, dissect a little bit of the impact on media and advertising, and of course also try to uncover some of the challenges surrounding authenticity and transparency. Prepare to be captivated by some intricate dynamics between influencers, brands, and consumers. Let's jump right into it, right? Let's talk about the rise of influencer marketing from celebrities to everyday influencers. And to understand it, we gotta explore some of the origins and progression of influencer marketing. One of the theories that applies here, and we always talk about media theories that apply, that explain why things are happening. And one theory here that's very applicable is the theory of parasocial interaction. And this theory explains the unique bond audiences develop with influencers through social media. Yeah, parasocial means, it's somewhat social, but not really. And it's actually like para from paranormal, right? Which is not normal. So parasocial is not really social. It's fake social, if you will. So you feel a social bond to an influencer because you see them all the time and they're always in your timeline. They're on every social media. If you really like them, you follow them on different channels probably. So you see them all the time. So you think you know them. You're like, oh no, I know what Chloe likes, and so on. So this can lead to parasocial interaction, parasocial relationships with those influencers. They're not real, but they feel real to us because we see them all the time. We also have to look at the shift from traditional celebrity endorsements to the rise of like everyday influencers, like individuals who have amassed like a dedicated following and, well, to some extent, actual, real, authentic connections within what we call niche communities. And then here we can look at the next theory, the concept of social proof. He would analyze how influencers leverage their credibility, their expertise, their relatability, and so on to shape consumer behavior. With social proof, we see that people like us, like not superstar influencers, but maybe even micro influencers, if you will, niche influencers, people that like what we're doing, or they like similar things that we like, they're using something, so we believe them, right? So that's the concept of social proof. We also can look at the democratization of content creation, of course. Because now, obviously, thanks to social media, rise of social media platforms, more and more, with Threads just having launched at the time of the recording here. Of course, influencer marketing is becoming popular. And I hesitate because, of course, we could argue whether or not influencer marketing is still as popular as it was maybe pre-COVID. But I think while maybe super mega influencers aren't as popular anymore, those micro influencers, those niche influencers are definitely still working, especially in certain areas of the world, I believe. So, for example, here in Asia, they are still very, very important for marketing. So after looking at all of those different aspects, we could try to focus on, well, what really matters for influencers. And that is, of course, authenticity and transparency. And we call it the building blocks of trust, if you will, because only if you establish trust, the audience will actually believe you. So you have to analyze in more detail which critical elements lead to authenticity and transparency when it comes to influencer marketing. So there's an obvious theory, the theory of credibility. Credibility, of course, impacts the effectiveness of an influencer and of influencer campaigns. The audiences, of course, they seek authentic connections. As you know, if you follow someone, if you just started Threads, right, for example, and you look for who to follow, of course, you rather follow authentic connections and relatable experiences rather than some made-up stuff. That's why authenticity is such a valuable currency in this influencer landscape, especially if you're talking about not superstar influencers, but more micro/niche influencers. And the main challenge here lies in maintaining transparency and also ensuring ethical practices. We talked about ethics a few times in the last few episodes, right? Because there are some pitfalls to it, like, for example, undisclosed sponsorships. Yeah, of course, brands, they don't want you to say, hey guys, this is advertisement, because then maybe the audience doesn't really listen to it, doesn't really look at it, maybe scrolls past it. And if it's more organic advertisement or organic product placement, if you will, then the audience isn't aware of it being advertisement, right? But of course, this is not ethical then, because you're just using the product, if you're the influencer, because you get money. So that's a potential pitfall there, those undisclosed sponsorships. So it's really important that there's some clear disclosure happening in order to foster trust and to also maintain the integrity of those influencer collaborations. So if the brand is serious about that, they will also be okay with the influencer saying that it's a collaboration. Usually it's the more dodgy brands that don't want to do that. Also, when we look at the concept of persuasive effects of source credibility, right? You could look at how disclosure practices actually impact audience perceptions and overall effectiveness of influencer marketing. So what I'm saying is, you would look at, does the fact that the influencer discloses that it's a collaboration/marketing actually impact the perception of the audience? Because, well, our initial reaction would be what I just said earlier. If we see its advertisement, we're not looking at it, right? Then again, if it's not those superstar influencers, but if it's micro influencers, niche influencers, authentic ones, maybe their audience is less put off with ads because they know, hey, even though it's a sponsored post, they only do collaborations with brands that they actually use. And that's why they still trust them. And so that would be something we would have to look into if we would go into influencer marketing. And if you look at what makes successful influencer collabs, right? You would focus on, okay, what really is the power when it comes to influencer marketing? It might be the storytelling, for example. It might be how influencers craft different narratives that then resonate with audiences and that lead to more engagement. Yeah, this would lead, or this would draw, that's a better way to say it, from a concept which we call the extended self. So this means that influencers become somewhat of extensions of consumer identities. Meaning, us as consumers, we look at the influencer that we follow as someone very similar to us, similar to our identity. And if the influencer does a good job in connecting with the audience, then this would allow brands that collab with the influencer to tap into emotional connections with the audience and hence increase/foster loyalty. Because the emotional connection is there, and once there's an emotional connection because of that extended self, we trust the brand, the influencer, and hence loyalty increases. In order to see how this actually works, you could actually, if you want to, as a quick exercise, for example, you could dissect some influencer collaborations across different industries, from fashion to beauty to travel to food, whatever floats your boat. And you will see that most of those campaigns, they really try to focus on this building trust aspect. They try to make the influencer as relatable as possible to you. Again, not talking about those superstar influencers like the Kardashians. They don't want to be relatable. They're like, we're superstars. Like us for us being awesome. But the actual micro/niche influencers, they try to be as relatable as possible. So if you look at those different cases, again, whatever floats your boat, you will find some that are related to what you like. You will then see those strategies that we just discussed that make influencer campaigns stand out, like authenticity, creative storytelling, aligning with the values of the influencer and the brand and the consumer, you, us. Okay, so if you analyze those different approaches, those campaigns from the people that you follow, then you will gain insights into like how really multifaceted this influencer marketing thing really is. So it's not just finding someone who looks pretty, who looks handsome, attractive, whatever you want to call it, but it's really important to have this emotional connection and have authenticity that people buy into. Okay. So again, I would really suggest like give it a try and maybe shout out in the comments or send me a text/email and we can discuss it. Just analyze any influencer that you follow. How are they building trust? How do they portray their authenticity? How do they connect to the extended self? Once you see that, the light bulb will go off and on, and you're like, oh my God, that's what they're doing. And it doesn't mean you have to unfollow them. It still can be beneficial to us, right? But it's just good to know what's happening. So if you look at influencer marketing and the landscape out there and looking at the challenges and also seeing the potential there, right? We hopefully recognize that there's a profound impact on media and advertising in influencer marketing or by influencer marketing. The influencers, and again, I'm not talking about the Kardashians, I'm talking about like the local influencers, the micro influencers, niche influencers. They have the power to shape opinions, and they drive trends, and they do influence purchasing decisions. And one of my favorite influencers to follow is MKHBD. You might know him. He's doing lots of gadget tech stuff. And while it's understood that he's an influencer, it's understood that he has lots of paid collaborations, he's still very authentic in his approach. He discloses when it's a collaboration, and he still uses the same framework to analyze gadgets, tools, tech stuff, even if it's a collaboration. So it's still trustworthy and his audience trusts him. That's not always the case though, of course. That's why I'm saying you have to look at the influencers that you follow. Because those challenges of authenticity, transparency, and ethical practices is pretty crucial, right? So those are crucial aspects, and it's a challenge to navigate through that. Even if you're maybe not even having bad intentions, right? Maybe influencers that are coming up, they don't have bad intentions, but they're just so desperate to make it. They're like, okay, if you pay me $100 extra to not say that it's a collaboration, then I'm not saying it. And so it's really difficult. It's a difficult space to navigate through. Is what I'm trying to say. If you understand all the things that I just mentioned and all the theories that underpin influencer marketing, right? So, such as what I mentioned earlier, parasocial interaction, social proof, credibility, extended self. If we do this, brands, influencers, and us, like consumers, we can harness the full potential of this marketing strategy, either as someone that works for a brand, as someone that's an influencer, or as someone that simply knows what is happening and decides to not be influenced too much by it. The key here always lies, however, in fostering genuine connections as an influencer, right, or as a brand, practicing transparent practices, collaborations, and so on, and obviously, and I can't stress it enough, creating value for audiences and the brands. The brands always want to create value, of course, but the audience needs to get some value from it. Otherwise, if the influencer doesn't bring me any value, why would I follow that influencer? Now, that value could be anything. It could be entertainment. It could be relief from the stress in my daily life. It could be some tangible outcomes. It could be I'm saving money. It could be I'm improving myself. I'm getting the better gadgets. I'm improving my computer. Whatever it might be, but some kind of outcome should be there. Some kind of value should be there for the audience. Okay. As you can see, I'm quite animated when it comes to this topic. So if you want to learn more about this, again, join me in class or send some questions this way. Maybe we will have the time to get into more detail and more discussions in that area, because of course it's, as always, very sophisticated. We only have 10 to 15 minutes per episode, so there's not much time to give a lecture or do even something interactive on it. But if you want to discuss it, please do shout out, of course. If it's interesting, I'd be happy if you would join again next episode here of the Funked Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. It's late at night while I'm recording, so pardon me for my voice sometimes dropping and the pronunciation not always being on point, but trying very hard. So obviously I'll keep continuing to explore this dynamic world of media communication. I'm going to look at this evolving landscape of influence, of influencers, and so on. So if that's something that interests you, it would be awesome if you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It's available everywhere. Share it with friends who might benefit from it. Give it a review. It would be fantastic. So maybe more people can find us, and then we can have bigger and longer discussions on all those topics. All right, that's it for now. So I hope you took something away from this. We'll be back very soon. After I slept, we will be back very soon. As always, stay safe, take care. We'll talk soon. Sawadee Kap.